You're not a bad friend for that flinch. This is a video about the sting you feel when someone you like gets good news, a promotion, an engagement, a new house. And for 1 second, it feels like loss, not joy. We'll look at where that comes from, why it doesn't make you a bad friend, and what to do next time it shows up. Maybe it was a text, a photo of a ring, a new job title, a sold sign in a yard that used to have one for sale. You typed, "So happy for you," and meant most of it. And underneath, something went quiet in a way you didn't want to look at directly. That quiet has a name, and it isn't the one you're afraid it is. That quiet has a name, and it's an old one. Epictetus, who spent his early years enslaved and thought harder about status than almost anyone since, noticed that people run a piece of math they never agreed to. Someone tells you their good news, and some part of you instantly converts it. They have more now, therefore they are more now. He wrote the logic out plainly, on purpose, so you could see how strange it actually is. I am richer than you, therefore I am better than you. That is the sentence running under the quiet in your chest, and said out loud like that, it sounds absurd. You would never claim that having more money makes someone a better person. You know better. But you feel the conclusion anyway, every time, because the comparison doesn't wait for your permission. It fires before you've had a chance to argue with it, which tells you something worth sitting with. The flinch is not a verdict on your character. It's a reflex, fast and automatic, running on logic you'd reject in half a second if you ever looked at it directly. The real question was never whether you felt it. It's what happens in the 10 seconds right after. Here's what actually happens in those 10 seconds, if you're honest about it. You catch the flinch, and before you've even named it, a second reaction shows up right behind it. Disgust, aimed at yourself for having felt the first one at all. Now you're not just uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable and ashamed of being uncomfortable. And the shame does more damage than the original flinch ever could have. Because somewhere along the way, you picked up the idea that a good friend feels one thing at a time. Pure gladness, uncut by anything else. And one stray flicker of comparison means you've failed some test of character you didn't know you were taking. That idea is the actual problem, not the flinch. Two feelings can occupy the same 10 seconds without canceling each other out. You can be genuinely glad for someone and also notice in some quieter room of yourself that their good news moved a line you'd been measuring yourself against. Those are not competing verdicts. They're just two things that happen to both be true. Which raises a question worth asking honestly. Where did that line even come from? And who told you it was the one worth measuring against in the first place? Marcus Aurelius asked almost that exact question, sitting alone at night, running an empire he'd never wanted. I have often wondered, he wrote, how it is that every man loves himself more than all other men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Read that twice, because it explains more than it first seems to. If you actually valued your own judgment above the room's, someone else's promotion or wedding or new house would register as exactly what it is. Their life, moving forward on its own track. It wouldn't move your line at all. because you wouldn't be measuring against a line borrowed from outside you in the first place. But most of us aren't running on our own judgment. We're running on a shared, half-conscious scoreboard, assembled out of whoever we happen to grow up around and compare ourselves to. And once you're on someone else's scoreboard, their win genuinely does count against you, whether you meant to enter the competition or not. Which is the real diagnosis? You didn't fail to be a good enough friend. You just never got to choose the game you were playing, or the way it kept score. So here's where you actually get some leverage, because you can't uninstall the reflex, but you can choose a different scoreboard to run it on. The old one measures you against a stranger's life on categories you never picked: income, timeline, relationship status, whatever the notification happened to be about that day. It's rigged before it starts, because someone else's life will always be ahead of yours on some axis and behind it on another. And the scoreboard only ever shows you the axis where you're losing. The better version measures you against your own life a year ago, not a stranger's ceiling, your own floor. Are you more honest than you were? Braver in the ordinary moments? Easier to be around? That scoreboard has exactly one entrant, which means someone else's good news can never move it, not even slightly, because it was never running on their numbers to begin with. Saying that is the easy part, though. The old scoreboard doesn't ask permission before it switches back on, usually right when the next notification lands. So the real question isn't which scoreboard is better. It's what actually keeps the new one running once the moment of clarity wears off. Confucius answered that question with one plain sentence. Not a comforting idea to keep in your head, but a habit to run at the exact moment the old scoreboard tries to switch back on. The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. He wasn't talking about bragging. He was talking about where you put your attention. On the account of yourself you perform out loud, or on the actual, unglamorous work of becoming someone you respect. Those two things pull in opposite directions, and the flinch you feel at someone else's good news is usually a sign you'd been quietly investing in the first one without noticing. So here's the actual answer if you came looking for one. That flinch was never proof you're a bad friend. It was proof you'd been keeping score on a borrowed scoreboard, measuring your unglamorous, ordinary progress against someone else's highlight reel. Pick your own scoreboard, and the flinch loses its job. So if there's a text still sitting on your phone, a ring, a new title, a sold sign, go back and read it again. You can be glad, actually glad, uncut, no second feeling running underneath it. Not because the flinch was wrong to happen, because you finally changed what it was measuring. If this gave you something worth keeping, subscribe. There's a new reflection here every week. And be gentle with yourself today.